He thought the blind date was just another calculated risk, until a 6-year-old girl spoke words that cracked open a truth he'd been running from for years. The city lights blurred against the rain-streaked windows of Sorella's, casting everything in soft gold and shadow. Inside, the restaurant hummed with quiet elegance, the clink of fine silverware, low murmurs of conversation, the faint scent of seared steak and aged wine. Victor S. Lorenzen sat alone at a table near the back corner, his posture straight, his expression unreadable. He looked exactly how people imagined billionaires always did. Tailored charcoal suit, platinum cufflinks catching the light, a watch that cost more than most people earned in a year. But beneath the polished exterior was something colder, something carefully controlled. He checked his phone again. 7:23 p.m. The blind date, arranged by Marcus, a business partner he'd trusted for a decade, was supposed to arrive at 7. Victor set the phone down with deliberate calm. He didn't even know why he'd agreed to this. He'd built an empire on logic, on eliminating variables, on never letting emotion cloud judgment. Romance wasn't a variable he could afford. He'd learned that lesson the hard way. 5 years ago, he let someone close. 5 years ago, he believed trust was something you could get without consequences. He'd been wrong. The betrayal had been swift, surgical, and devastating. Not just his heart, but his reputation, his business, his sense of who he was. Since then, Victor had rebuilt everything. Everything except the part of himself that could still feel. He glanced toward the entrance. A couple walked in, laughing. A businessman checking his phone. A hostess seating an elderly woman. No one who looked remotely like the woman Marcus had described. Another 15 minutes crawled by, then 30, then 45. The maitre d' passed by his table for the third time, eyes filled with something that looked uncomfortably close to pity. Victor reached for his wallet. This was a mistake. But just as he stood to leave, a small voice broke through the quiet hum of the restaurant. "Excuse me, mister." He froze. A little girl stood beside his table, no older than 6, with bright brown eyes that seemed to see straight through him. She wore a faded yellow backpack and sneakers that had seen better days. Her hair was pulled into 2 uneven ponytails, one slightly higher than the other. She tilted her head, studying him with an unsettling kind of clarity. "You look sad," she said softly, "like you're waiting for someone who wasn't meant for you." Victor's breath caught in his throat. The words hit him like a punch he hadn't braced for, not because they were profound, but because they were true. Before he could respond, a woman's voice cut through the moment, breathless, panicked, apologetic. "Amber, oh my God, I'm so sorry, you can't just..." Victor turned, and there she was, Alicia, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail that was barely holding together. Scrubs wrinkled and stained from what must have been a brutal shift. Her cheeks were flushed from running, her eyes tired but warm. She wasn't polished. She wasn't put together. She was real in a way that made everything else in the restaurant feel staged. She wasn't his blind date, but when their eyes met, something inside Victor shifted. Something he thought had died 5 years ago. "I'm so sorry," Alicia said again, reaching for Amber's hand. She wanders sometimes. She doesn't mean any harm." Victor found his voice, though it came out rougher than he intended. "It's fine." But it wasn't fine, because the little girl's words were still echoing in his head. Waiting for someone who wasn't meant for you. And as Alicia pulled Amber away, apologizing one more time before disappearing toward a table in the corner, Victor realized something that terrified him. He wasn't waiting for the blind date anymore. He was waiting to understand why a 6-year-old stranger had just said the one thing he'd been too afraid to admit to himself. Victor sat back down slowly, his mind replaying the child's words. The restaurant continued around him, but everything felt different. He watched Alicia settle Amber into a booth across the room, her movements efficient and tender. She smoothed Amber's hair, while pulling a worn coloring book from her bag. His phone buzzed. "Marcus, how's it going?" "She arrived yet?" Victor typed back. She never showed. The response came immediately. "What?" "That's impossible. I confirmed with her this morning." Victor pocketed his phone and glanced toward Alicia's table. She was leaning close to Amber, whispering something that made the girl giggle. The sound carried across the restaurant, bright and unguarded. The maitre d' approached. "Mr. Lorenzen, I apologize for the inconvenience. Would you like to order, or shall I cancel your reservation?" "Cancel it," Victor said, but he didn't move to leave. Instead, he watched the woman and child. Alicia rubbed her temples briefly before forcing a smile at something Amber said. Victor recognized that exhaustion, the bone-deep weariness of carrying too much for too long. Amber looked up suddenly, her eyes finding Victor's across the room. She waved, small and innocent. Alicia followed her daughter's gaze, and when she saw Victor watching, embarrassment crossed her face. She mouthed another apology. Victor surprised himself by standing and walking to their table. "Excuse me," he said. "I couldn't help but notice. You both look like you've had a long day." Alicia's guard went up immediately. "We're fine, thank you. I didn't mean to intrude. It's just," he paused. "Your daughter said something earlier. Something that struck me." Amber beamed. "You're not sad anymore." "Amber," Alicia warned gently. "No, she's right," Victor said. "I was supposed to meet someone tonight. They never showed up." "That's mean," Amber said. "Mama says it's not nice to make people wait." "Amber," Alicia repeated, her cheeks flushing. "I'm sorry, Mr. Victor." "Just Victor." He hesitated. "Would you mind if I joined you? Just for a moment. I'd like to buy you both dinner." "As a thank you." Alicia's eyes narrowed. "A thank you for what?" "For reminding me that being stood up might be the best thing that happened to me all week." Alicia studied him with scrutiny that told Victor she'd been hurt before. "Look, we don't need charity." "It's not charity. It's gratitude." "For my daughter interrupting your evening?" "For her honesty." Victor glanced at Amber. "Most people spend their lives learning to hide what they think. She hasn't learned that yet. I find it refreshing." Alicia's expression softened slightly. "I've worked 3 double shifts this week. I'm exhausted. I just want a quiet dinner with my daughter. What if I promise to be quiet? You won't even know I'm here." Amber giggled. "You're funny." Alicia looked torn between exasperation and amusement. "This is a terrible idea." "The best ideas usually are." She held his gaze, and Victor felt like he was being x-rayed. Whatever she saw must have satisfied some test, because she finally gestured to the empty seat. "Fine, but only because Amber seems to like you, and she's usually a good judge of character." Victor slid into the booth, suddenly aware of how different this felt. He was used to business dinners where every word was calculated. This felt dangerously real. A waitress appeared, recognizing Victor. "Mr. Lorenzen, I thought you'd left." "3 menus, please," Victor said smoothly. "And whatever the house special is for dessert. For all of us." Amber's eyes went wide. "Dessert?" "It's already ordered," Victor said. "Would be a shame to waste it." Alicia shook her head, but there was a smile now. "You're persistent." "It's how I built my company." "What kind of company?" Amber asked. Victor hesitated. This was when things usually changed. "I help businesses grow, make them stronger." "Like a doctor?" Amber asked. The comparison caught him off guard. "Yes, like a doctor for companies." "Mama's a nurse," Amber announced. "She helps people feel better." Victor looked at Alicia with new understanding. "That's noble work." Alicia's expression became guarded. "It's just work." "It's more than that. I've built empires, but I've never saved a life." Something flickered across Alicia's face. Surprise, maybe recognition. For a moment, the wall between them thinned. The waitress returned with menus. Amber studied hers with intense concentration, finger tracing over pictures. Alicia watched her daughter with such open affection that Victor felt like an intruder on something sacred. "She can't read yet," Alicia said softly, almost offensively. "We're working on it, but with my schedule." "She's 6, Victor interrupted. "She has time." Alicia met his eyes. "Time is a luxury I don't have much of." Victor understood that feeling differently. His scarcity came from choice rather than necessity. He'd filled his days to avoid silence. But looking at Alicia, He realized their emptiness came from opposite directions. He had too much of everything except meaning. She had too little of everything except love. "Mama, can I get the pasta?" Amber asked. "Of course, baby." Alicia's voice transformed when speaking to her daughter, all hardness melting away. Victor watched them together. The way Amber leaned into her mother, the way Alicia's hand instinctively smoothed her daughter's hair, and felt something crack inside him. The fortress he'd built over 5 years suddenly had a fissure running through its foundation. Amber looked up at him. "Are you going to eat with us every night now?" The question hung in the air, absurd and impossible, and somehow exactly what Victor wanted. Alicia laughed, embarrassed. "Amber, Mr. Victor has his own life." "I like that," Victor heard himself say. And he meant it. The dinner passed in a blur of normalcy Victor hadn't experienced in years. Amber chatted about school, her teacher, her favorite color. Alicia remained cautious, but gradually relaxed. When the check came, Victor paid before Alicia could protest. Outside, the rain had stopped. Amber skipped ahead, jumping over puddles. Alicia watched with a mixture of love and exhaustion. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For dinner?" "I think I needed it," Victor replied. Alicia studied him. "Why were you really there tonight?" "At Sorella's. A business partner set up a blind date. Said I needed to start living again." "And do you?" "Need to start living again?" The question cut deep. Victor watched Amber splash in a puddle. "I thought I was living just fine. Now I'm not so sure." They walked in silence for a moment. "Where are you parked?" Victor asked. Alicia's laugh was bitter. "We took the bus. My car died 3 weeks ago." The revelation hit Victor hard. He'd spent more on dinner than she probably spent on groceries. "Let me call you a car." "We're fine." "Please. It's late." "She's tired." "You're tired." Alicia looked at Amber, whose energy was depleting. "Okay, thank you." Victor arranged for his driver. Within minutes, a sleek black car pulled up. Alicia's eyes widened, and Victor saw her guard go back up. "This is your car?" "One of them," he admitted, immediately regretting it. Alicia's expression shifted. "Of course it is." She scooped up Amber. "Thank you for dinner, Miss Lorenzen." The formal address stung. "Victor," he corrected. "Right, Victor." She opened the car door. Before climbing in, she turned back. "This was nice. But let's not pretend it's something it's not. You live in one world. We live in another. Tonight was an anomaly. It doesn't have to be." "Yes, it does." Her voice was gentle but firm. "Men like you don't end up with women like me. That's not how these stories end." She closed the door, and Victor watched the car pull away, taking something he hadn't realized he'd been searching for. The next morning, Victor arrived at his office early. His assistant Caroline looked up in surprise. "You're here early. The Marcus meeting isn't until 10. "I know." Victor paused. "Caroline, what do you know about the woman Marcus set me up with?" Caroline's expression became neutral. "Only that Mr. Brennan said she was perfect for you." "Why?" "She never showed." "That's odd." Caroline checked her computer. He seemed very certain. "Pull the details. Name, background. How Marcus knew her. Everything." "Of course." She hesitated. "Sir, is everything all right?" Victor thought about Amber's words, about Alicia's guarded eyes. "I'm not sure, but I'm going to find out." He spent the morning on work, but his mind kept drifting to a worn yellow backpack and uneven ponytails. Around 11, Caroline knocked. "I have that information." "And?" "Her name is Veronica Ashford, daughter of Richard Ashford from Ashford Industries. Marcus has been trying to broker a merger with him for months." Caroline's tone was professional, but Victor heard the implication. His jaw tightened. "So the date wasn't about me. It was about business." "It appears that way. But there's more." Caroline handed him a folder. "Veronica checked into the Four Seasons yesterday afternoon. She's been in the city the whole time. She just chose not to show up." "Why?" "I don't know. But the restaurant you were at, Sorella's, it's owned by a subsidiary of Ashford Industries. They would have known you were there." Victor's blood ran cold. This wasn't a simple no-show. This was calculated. "There's one more thing," Caroline said carefully. "The woman you had dinner with, Alicia Reeves. She works at St. Catherine's Hospital, 3 blocks from Sorella's." "So, St. Catherine's is where Marcus's daughter had surgery last year. He's on the board. He would know the staff." Caroline met his eyes. "I'm not saying it's connected, but it's one hell of a coincidence." Victor leaned back, his mind racing. Marcus had set up the date. Veronica had deliberately not shown. And somehow, Alicia had been at that exact restaurant at that exact time, with a daughter who said things she shouldn't have known. You're waiting for someone who wasn't meant for you. How could a 6-year-old know that? Unless she'd overheard something. Unless she'd been somewhere she wasn't supposed to be. "Find out everything about Alicia Reeves," Victor said. "Her work history, schedule, any connection to Marcus or Ashford Industries." "Sir, are you sure?" "Just do it, Caroline." After she left, Victor stood at his window. Last night, he'd felt something shift. Now that warmth was being replaced by something colder, more familiar. Suspicion. In his world, coincidences didn't exist. Everything happened for a reason. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Amber wants to know if you're coming to dinner again tonight." Victor stared at the message. Every instinct screamed trap. But beneath the suspicion was something softer. Amber's laugh, Alicia's tired smile. He typed back, "Where?" The response, "Our apartment. Nothing fancy. Just us." 7 p.m., an address followed. Victor looked at the address, then at the folder on his desk. He could investigate from a distance, maintain his walls, protect himself. Or he could walk into whatever this was with his eyes open. He texted back, "I'll be there." Then he made another call. "This is Victor Lorenzen. I need a full background check. Priority level. Name, Marcus Brennan." Because if someone was playing games with his life, he was going to find out who and why, even if the answer led to the man he'd trusted for a decade. Victor stood outside Alicia's address that evening, a modest apartment building with peeling paint and flickering security lights. It was worlds away from his penthouse. He'd almost canceled 3 times. The background check on Marcus wouldn't be ready until tomorrow, and every logical part of his brain screamed he was walking into something he didn't understand. But he'd learned that the biggest risks often yielded the greatest returns. He pressed the buzzer for apartment 3C. "Hello?" Alicia's voice crackled through the intercom. "It's Victor." A pause. Then the door buzzed open. The stairwell smelled like old cooking and cleaning products. Victor climbed to the 3rd floor. When he reached 3C, the door was open, and Amber stood in the gap, grinning. "You came. Mama said you might not." Amber let him in. Alicia called. Victor stepped into the small apartment. The space was tiny, combined living room and kitchen, a short hallway to bedrooms. But it was clean, organized, filled with touches that spoke of love. Crayon drawings on the refrigerator, a handmade quilt on the worn couch, books stacked on painted cinder block shelves. Alicia emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands. She'd changed into jeans and a sweater, hair down and damp from a shower. She looked younger, less guarded, though wariness still flickered in her eyes. "You didn't have to bring anything," she said, eyeing the grocery bag. "I didn't know what you were making. I took a guess." He set the bag down. Alicia pulled out the items. Fresh pasta, expensive olive oil, imported Parmesan, wine that probably cost more than her weekly budget. Her expression was unreadable. "This is too much," she said quietly. "It's just dinner." "No, it's not." She met his eyes. "Why are you really here, Victor? And don't tell me it's because Amber invited you." Victor glanced at Amber, who had settled on the floor with her coloring book, humming softly. Out of earshot, but not for long. "Can we talk? After dinner?" Alicia studied him, then nodded. "Fine, but you're helping me cook." Cooking together was surprisingly intimate. Alicia moved through her tiny kitchen with practiced efficiency. Victor followed her lead, chopping vegetables while she prepared sauce. They worked in companionable silence, occasionally interrupted by Amber's questions. "You're not terrible at this," Alicia said, watching him dice tomatoes. My mother insisted I learn, said a man who couldn't feed himself was helpless. The memory caught him off guard. Smart woman. She was. Victor set down the knife. She died when I was 19. Car accident. Alicia's hand stilled. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. But saying it brought back the ache. His mother had been the last person who'd loved him without agenda. My daughter's father left when I was 6 months pregnant. Alicia said quietly. Said he wasn't ready to be trapped. Victor felt anger flash through him. He's an idiot. A small smile tugged at Alicia's lips. Yes, he is. But Amber's better off without him. She tasted the sauce, added salt. I don't tell you this for pity. I tell you so you understand I've learned to be careful. Men who seem too good to be true usually are. And I seem too good to be true. You're a billionaire who showed up at a modest restaurant, got stood up, befriended a random child, and now you're in my apartment cooking dinner. Yes, Victor, you seem too good to be true. Before he could respond, Amber appeared. Can I show you my room? Amber, Victor's helping. It's fine, Victor said. The sauce needs to simmer anyway. Alicia looked torn but nodded. 5 minutes. Amber's room was barely large enough for a twin bed and small dresser, but she'd made it her own. Glow-in-the-dark stars dotted the ceiling. More drawings covered the walls. Families, houses, flowers, and in one corner, a man in a suit. That's you, Amber said, pointing. I made it after last night. Victor knelt down. In the child's simple lines, he was smiling. Beside him were 2 other figures, Amber and Alicia, all holding hands. This is beautiful, he managed. You were sad at the restaurant, but then you weren't. Amber tilted her head. You're sad again now, though. Did something bad happen? The observation was too accurate. How do you know these things? Amber shrugged. I just know. Mama says I'm intuitive. That means I see things other people don't. Intuitive. The word sent a chill through Victor. What else do you see? I see that the lady who was supposed to meet you doesn't like you very much. She thinks you're boring. Amber said it matter-of-factly. She told someone on the phone. I heard her. Victor's blood ran cold. When did you hear this? At the hospital. I was waiting for Mama. There was a pretty lady in the hallway talking on her phone. She said your name, so I listened. She said she wasn't going to meet some boring billionaire just because her daddy wanted her to. Veronica. It had to be. But what was she doing at St. Catherine's? Unless... Amber, what day was this? Yesterday. Before we went to the fancy restaurant. Amber pulled out another drawing, showing a woman with long hair on a phone. I drew her too. She had a red coat and sparkly shoes. Victor's mind raced. Veronica had been at St. Catherine's yesterday. Alicia worked there. The coincidences were piling up. Amber, dinner. Alicia called. Coming. Amber grabbed his hand. Don't be sad, okay? Mama says everything happens for a reason. Maybe the mean lady didn't come because you were supposed to meet us instead. Out of the mouths of children, Victor thought. But he couldn't shake the feeling that Amber had stumbled into something dangerous. Dinner was simple but perfect. They ate at a small table, Amber chattering between bites. Victor found himself relaxing despite his churning thoughts. After dinner, Alicia put Amber to bed, leaving Victor alone in the living room. He stood at the window, watching the city lights. He heard Alicia's soft voice reading a bedtime story, heard Amber's sleepy responses, and felt that dangerous crack in his walls widen. When Alicia finally emerged, she poured 2 glasses of wine and handed him one. She's asleep. Now we talk. Victor took the glass, but didn't drink. What do you know about Marcus Brennan? Alicia's expression shifted, surprise flickering across her face. The board member? I've seen him at the hospital. His daughter had surgery there. Why? He's the one who set up my blind date, the woman who didn't show. Victor turned to face her. Amber overheard her at the hospital yesterday. She was there, Alicia, the same day you were working. Understanding dawned on Alicia's face, followed by fear. You think this was planned? That I was part of some setup? I don't know what to think. That's why I'm asking. Alicia set down her glass with deliberate care. I'm going to say this once. I don't know anything about your blind date or your business partner or whatever games rich people play. I was at Sorella's because it was Amber's birthday and she'd been begging to go somewhere special. I saved for 3 months to afford one meal there. Her voice shook. I didn't know you'd be there. I didn't know Amber would wander over. And I certainly didn't know she'd overheard something she shouldn't have. The raw honesty in her voice cut through his suspicion. Victor had spent years reading people, and every instinct told him she was telling the truth. I believe you, he said quietly. Do you? Alicia crossed her arms. Because it looks like you came here to interrogate me. I came here because I couldn't stay away. The admission surprised them both. Last night was the first time in 5 years I felt anything real. And yes, when I started finding coincidences, I got suspicious. That's who I am. I see patterns, I question motives. I've been betrayed before. Alicia's expression softened. What happened? Victor sat down on the couch. 5 years ago, I was engaged. Her name was Catherine. I thought we were building a life together, but she was actually building a case against me. Industrial espionage. She'd been planted by a rival company to steal trade secrets. By the time I figured it out, she'd taken everything. The company nearly collapsed. That's horrible, Alicia said softly. I rebuilt, stronger than before, but I swore I'd never let anyone close enough to hurt me again. He looked up at her. And then a 6-year-old girl told me I was waiting for the wrong person, and I realized I'd been waiting for 5 years without even knowing it. Alicia sat beside him, leaving careful distance. Amber has a gift for saying exactly what people need to hear. She said something else tonight. About Veronica, the woman who stood me up, being at the hospital. About overhearing her on the phone. Victor turned to Alicia. I need to know what she saw. It might be connected to something bigger. Connected to what? I don't know yet, but Marcus has been pushing for a merger with Veronica's father's company. The blind date was supposed to facilitate that. When she didn't show when I ended up with you instead, he stopped, pieces clicking. What if that was the point? What if someone wanted me distracted or connected to something I shouldn't be? Alicia's face paled. You think I'm being used to hurt you? I think we're both pawns in someone else's game. And Amber might have seen something that exposes it. Heavy silence fell between them. In the distance, they could hear the city's nighttime symphony. What are you going to do? Alicia asked finally. Find out the truth. Protect you and Amber if this is what I think it is. Victor met her eyes. But I need your help. I need to know everything Amber overheard. She's 6 years old. She doesn't understand what she hears. That might be what saves us. She has no reason to lie. He reached out, stopping just short of touching her hand. Please, let me figure this out before someone else does. Alicia looked at the space between their hands, then back at his face. Whatever she saw convinced her. She nodded slowly. Okay, but Victor, if this puts Amber in danger, I'll walk away. I promise. They talked late into the night, Alicia recounting everything she could remember. Victor took notes, building a timeline, looking for patterns. The more they talked, the clearer it became that something was deeply wrong. When Victor finally left after midnight, Alicia walked him to the door. This is crazy, she said. Yesterday you were a stranger. Now you're wrapped up in my life, and I don't even know how it happened. Amber happened, Victor said simply. She saw something no one else could see. That you were waiting for the wrong person? That I was waiting at all. He left before he could do something stupid like kiss her. But as he drove home, his phone buzzed with a message from Caroline. Background check on Marcus complete. You need to see this. Tonight, Victor changed direction, heading toward his office. Whatever this was, whatever trap had been set, he was about to spring it. And God help anyone who tried to hurt Alicia or Amber in the process. The elevator to Victor's office felt longer than usual. Caroline was waiting in the conference room, folders spread across the table, her expression grim. I hope you're sitting down for this, she said. Victor sat. Tell me. Caroline slid the first folder across. Marcus Brennan. You've known him 12 years, trusted him with major decisions. I know his resume, Caroline. You know what he wanted you to know. She opened the folder, revealing financial documents. For the past 18 months, Marcus has been funneling money through shell corporations. Small amounts, nothing that would trigger red flags. But it adds up, over $2 million, all leading back to one source, Richard Ashford. Victor's jaw tightened. Veronica's father. Exactly. The merger Marcus has been pushing, he's been paid to make it happen. And there's more. She slid over another document. 3 weeks ago, Marcus purchased a controlling interest in St. Catherine's Hospital through shell companies. He's essentially in charge of operations, including staffing. Alicia works at St. Catherine's. Yes, and her employment file shows something interesting. Caroline pulled up a digital record. She was scheduled for termination 2 months ago. Budget cuts, they said, but the termination was mysteriously rescinded. Want to guess who intervened? Victor didn't need to guess. Marcus. He kept her employed, made sure she stayed right where he needed her. Caroline's expression was sympathetic. Victor, I think he's been orchestrating this. The blind date, that never happened. Alicia being at Sorella's. All of it. Victor stood, pacing to the window. Why? What's his end game? I'm still working on that. But there's something else. Caroline hesitated. Amber Reeves. She was in the hospital 3 months ago. Emergency appendectomy. The surgery was performed by Dr. Sarah Chun. So Dr. Chen's operating room is directly adjacent to the private recovery suites. The suites where Richard Ashford's daughter, Marcus's goddaughter, was recovering from cosmetic surgery. Caroline met his eyes. Amber was in that hospital for 2 days. 2 days in a recovery room, right next to where some very powerful people were having private conversations. The implications hit Victor. You think she overheard something. I think a 6-year-old girl with no context might have absorbed information that could destroy several very powerful people. Caroline closed her tablet, and I think Marcus realized it when Amber approached you at Sorella's. Victor's mind raced back to that moment. Amber's innocent face, her perceptive words. You're waiting for someone who wasn't meant for you. Had she been repeating something she'd heard? We need to know exactly what Amber heard, Victor said. We need to keep her safe, Caroline countered. If Marcus thinks she's a liability. Don't. Victor's voice came out sharp. Don't even finish that. His phone rang. Alicia's number. Victor? Her voice was tight with fear. Someone was outside our apartment. I saw them on the security camera. They tried the door. Are you safe? Is Amber safe? We're locked inside. But Victor, I'm scared. I'm sending security. They'll be there in 10 minutes. He was already moving. Pack a bag. Enough for a few days. You're not staying there tonight. What? No, I can't just... Alicia, please. Trust me. Just this once. A long pause. Then quietly. Okay. Victor hung up and turned to Caroline. Arrange for a security team at Alicia's apartment. Then book a suite at the Peninsula. 2 bedrooms, top floor, under a different name. You're moving them to a hotel? I'm moving them somewhere safe while we figure out what the hell is going on. He headed for the elevator. And Caroline? Find out everything about what happened in that hospital 3 months ago. If Amber heard something that makes her a target, I need to know what it is. 20 minutes later, Victor pulled up to Alicia's building. She and Amber were waiting on the steps, a single duffel bag between them. Alicia looked terrified but determined. Amber was half asleep, clutching a stuffed rabbit. The security team is watching the building, Victor said as they got his car. No one else tried the door. Who were they? What did they want? Alicia's voice shook. I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. Victor glanced at Amber in the rear-view mirror. She was watching him with those 2 perceptive eyes. Are we in trouble? She asked quietly. No, sweetheart, you're not in trouble. Victor met her gaze. But I need to ask you something. At the hospital, when you had your surgery, do you remember the room you were in after? Amber nodded slowly. Did you hear people talking? In the room next to yours. Another nod. Alicia's hand tightened on the door handle. What do they say? Victor asked gently. Amber's brow furrowed. There was a man and a lady. The man was angry. He kept saying someone named Victor was too smart, that they had to be careful. The lady said it didn't matter because the plan was already working. Victor's blood ran cold. They'd been talking about him, planning something while a child recovered in the next room. What else did they say? The man said they needed to get Victor alone, away from his guards and people who check things. He said the best way to catch a lion is to make him think he's hunting. Amber yawned. I didn't understand it. It's just an expression, baby, Alicia said, her voice barely steady. She looked at Victor. That's why the blind date. They wanted you isolated. And they got exactly what they wanted, Victor said bitterly. I showed up alone exactly where they told me. But the date didn't happen, Alicia pointed out. Did it? Victor pulled into the peninsula's underground parking. Or did it just change? They wanted me isolated. Instead, I met you. A single mother with financial struggles, a child who heard things she shouldn't have. He looked at her. What if you were always part of the plan? Alicia's face went white. Use me how? I don't know yet, but Marcus kept you employed. He made sure you were at that restaurant. These aren't coincidences. They rode the private elevator in silence. The suite was secure, comfortable, 2 separate bedrooms. Alicia carried Amber into one room, while Victor checked windows, locks, entry points. When Alicia emerged, she looked small and lost. This is insane. Yesterday, my biggest worry was making rent. Now you're telling me I'm part of some conspiracy. I'm saying you might be caught in the middle. Victor poured them water. Marcus has been paid to force a merger. But mergers don't require this level of manipulation. There's something else. What could be bigger? Billions, control of industries, political influence. Victor set down his glass. Or information, something someone is desperate to keep hidden. Alicia sat heavily, and Amber overheard it. Maybe, or maybe they just think she did, which is just as dangerous. He sat beside her. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to find out what they're planning and stop it. How? Victor smiled, and it wasn't pleasant. By being exactly what they think I am. Arrogant, overconfident, predictable. He pulled out his phone. Marcus has been playing me. Time to show him the piece, just learn the rules. He typed to Marcus, we need to talk. About Veronica. About the merger. About what you're really after. My office, tomorrow, 9 a.m. Come alone. The response came quickly. Of course. Looking forward to clearing the air. Victor showed Alicia. He thinks he's won. That's when people make mistakes. Or when they get desperate. Alicia said quietly, promise me that if this gets too dangerous, you'll walk away. But Victor couldn't promise that, because these two people had stopped being a puzzle and started being something he couldn't afford to lose. Get some rest, he said instead. Tomorrow this ends. He spent the night on the couch, laptop open, piecing together everything Caroline had sent. Financial records, email chains, meeting notes. The picture was damning. Marcus had been planning this for over a year. But what Victor couldn't figure out was why. Around 3 a.m, Amber padded out, dragging her stuffed rabbit. Can't sleep? Victor asked quietly. She shook her head and climbed beside him. You're trying to solve a puzzle. Something like that. My teacher says puzzles are easier when you look at the picture on the box. Amber leaned against his shoulder. What's your picture supposed to look like? Out of the mouths of children. Victor looked at all his data and realized he'd been so focused on pieces that he'd missed the bigger picture. Marcus didn't want the merger for money. He had plenty. He didn't want it for power. He had influence. So what was left? Protection. Marcus was afraid of something. Someone. And he was using the merger, using Victor to shield himself. Amber, Victor said carefully, the man you heard in the hospital. Did he say anything about being scared? About needing to hide? Amber thought. He said something about a man named Chun. That Chun was getting too close, and they needed to finish before he figured it out. Chun, the same last name as Amber's surgeon. Victor's hands flew across the keyboard. Dr. Sarah Chun, husband David Chun. Occupation, federal prosecutor. Current cases, white-collar crime, specifically. Victor's screen filled with the answer. David Chun was prosecuting a massive fraud case, money laundering, tax evasion, bribery. The defendants included several prominent businessmen. And buried in the middle, Marcus Brennan, under investigation for financial crimes dating back 5 years. Marcus wasn't orchestrating a merger. He was orchestrating an escape. The Ashford deal would give him offshore accounts, shell companies, ways to hide money if the prosecution got too close. And Victor, with his reputation, was supposed to be the respectable face that made it look legitimate. "I've got you," Victor whispered. Amber had fallen asleep against his shoulder. Victor carefully adjusted her, this small child who'd stumbled into a federal investigation without knowing it. She'd heard Marcus and Veronica planning to use Victor. She'd heard them mention the prosecutor. She was technically a witness, and if Marcus realized that, Victor pulled out his phone and made a call. David Chen's office. "This is Victor Lorenzen. I need to speak with Mr. Chen immediately. I have information about the Brennan case. Mr. Chen doesn't discuss ongoing investigations. Tell him I have a witness. A 6-year-old girl who overheard Marcus Brennan and Veronica Ashford discussing their plan to defraud investors and obstruct his investigation." Victor's voice was steel. "Tell him if he wants to close his case, he'll take my call." 2 minutes later, David Chun was on the line. "Mr. Lorenzen, this is unexpected. I'm calling to make a deal. Full cooperation, complete transparency, testimony if needed. In exchange, I want protection for 2 people, Alicia Reeves and her daughter Amber. They're in danger because of what the child accidentally overheard." "What exactly did the child overhear?" Victor told him everything, watching Amber sleep, feeling the weight of responsibility. He'd built empires, destroyed competitors, won and lost fortunes. But nothing had ever mattered as much as keeping this child safe. When he finished, Chin was quiet. "Can you have him in my office tomorrow?" 9 a.m. "Marcus is meeting me at 9. He thinks I'm going to help him finalize the merger." "Perfect. Let him walk into that meeting. We'll be waiting." Chen's voice held grim satisfaction. "Mr. Lorenzen, you just gave me everything I needed. Thank you. I don't want thanks. I want assurance that Alicia and Amber will be safe. You have my word. We'll provide protection until the arrest is made. After that, Marcus won't be a threat to anyone." Victor ended the call and looked down at Amber. In 48 hours, this child had done what federal investigators couldn't. She'd exposed a conspiracy by being in the wrong place at the right time. Or maybe the right place at the right time. You're waiting for someone who wasn't meant for you. She'd been talking about Veronica, but maybe also about the life Victor had built. Cold, isolated, focused on revenge instead of connection. "Thank you," he whispered to the sleeping child, "for seeing what I couldn't." When morning came, Victor explained everything to Alicia over coffee while Amber ate cereal. He watched emotions play across her face. Fear, anger, relief, resignation. "So we're witnesses now? In a federal case? You're protected now. That's what matters." Victor reached across the table. "I'm sorry. I brought this into your life." "No." Alicia's voice was firm. "Marcus brought this when he used my job as leverage, when he put Amber in that hospital room. You're the one trying to fix it." She took his hand. "Thank you for believing us, for protecting us." "Always," Victor said, and meant it with an intensity that surprised him. At 8:30, they met David Chun at a secure location. He was younger than Victor expected, with sharp eyes and determined expression. "Miss Reeves, I know this is frightening," Chin said gently, "but I need to speak with Amber, just to confirm what Mr. Lorenzen told me." Amber sat very still in the big chair, legs swinging above the ground. Chin spoke to her with respect, and Victor watched her blossom under the attention. "I heard the man say they were going to trick Mr. Victor." Amber said clearly they wanted him to sign papers that would make him responsible for their bad stuff. The lady said her daddy would be proud when they got away with it. "Did they mention any specific papers? Any names of companies?" Amber nodded. "Ashford something. And numbers. Lots of numbers and islands. Offshore accounts, Chin murmured, typing notes. This is incredible, Mr. Lorenzen. Absolutely incredible. At 9 a.m., Victor walked into his office building alone. Caroline met him in the lobby. Marcus is already upstairs. He brought Richard Ashford. Even better. Victor straightened his jacket. The more the merrier. Victor, are you sure about this? More sure than I've ever been. He rode the elevator up, his heart steady, his mind clear. 4 or 5 years. He'd been waiting without knowing what for. Now he knew. He'd been waiting for a reason to fight for something other than himself. Marcus and Richard Ashford were at the conference room window when Victor entered. Both turned, smiles on their faces. Victor. Marcus came forward with an outstretched hand. Finally, we can finish this deal. Can we? Victor didn't shake the offered hand. That's interesting, considering I haven't agreed to any terms. Marcus's smile faltered. What? I said I haven't agreed to anything. This merger, this partnership, none of it was my idea. You've been pushing it for months. And I finally figure out why. Victor, I don't know what. You're being investigated for fraud, tax evasion, money laundering. Victor's voice was cold. And you thought you could use me and my reputation to hide your assets offshore. Make it all look legitimate. Richard Ashford's face went white. Marcus, what is he talking about? He's talking about nothing. Victor, you're clearly stressed. I'm talking about a 6-year-old girl who overheard you and Veronica Ashford discussing your entire conspiracy while recovering from surgery 3 months ago. Victor watched understanding and fear bloom on Marcus's face. You knew she was there. That's why you kept her mother employed. That's why you orchestrated that blind date. You needed to know how much the child understood. This is insane, Marcus said, but his voice shook. The conference room door opened. David Chin walked in, flanked by 2 federal agents. Marcus Brennan, you're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, money laundering, and obstruction of justice. Chen's voice was pure satisfaction. Richard Ashford, you're also under arrest as an accessory. The next hour was chaos. Handcuffs lawyers shouted denials. Victor watched it all with cold detachment until the room finally cleared and he was alone with Chun. Thank you, the prosecutor said. This case has been my focus for 2 years. You handed it to me in 24 hours. I didn't do it for you. Victor looked out the window. I did it for a woman who deserves to sleep without fear and a child who deserves to keep her innocence a little longer. Noble sentiments from a billionaire. Chin handed him a card. We'll need formal statements. But as of now, the threat is neutralized. They'll go away for a long time. After Chin left, Victor sat alone, the morning sun streaming through windows. His phone buzzed with messages from his board, from media, from business associates. He ignored them all and called Alicia. It's over, he said. They're in custody. You're safe. He heard her breath catch, then a sound that might have been a sob or a laugh. Thank you. God, Victor, thank you. Come to dinner tonight. My place this time. Let me cook for you both. You don't have to. I want to. Please. A pause. Then, softly. Okay. Yes. We'll be there. Victor ended the call and stared at his phone. 48 hours ago, he'd been a man waiting for the wrong person. Now, he was a man who'd found exactly who he'd been searching for. Sometimes, he thought, the best things in life come from plans that fall apart, from blind dates that never happen, from children who see truths that adults miss, from waiting in the right place at the right time for someone who changes everything. Victor's penthouse looked different that evening, as if seeing it through Alicia's eyes revealed its emptiness. The furniture was designer. Every surface gleamed, but there was no warmth, no personality. Amber didn't notice. She was enchanted. The height, the city lights, the marble kitchen island bigger than her bedroom. You live here all by yourself? She asked, eyes wide. I do, Victor admitted. Don't you get lonely? The question hit harder than any business rival's attack. Sometimes. Yes. Alicia was quieter, moving through a space with visible discomfort. She'd changed clothes 3 times before leaving the hotel, Try to find something appropriate for a billionaire's penthouse. This is beautiful, she said, but her voice was tight. It's just space, Victor replied. Space I bought to feel successful, but only managed to feel empty. He prepared dinner himself. Pasta again, simpler this time, remembering their night in her kitchen. Amber helped set the table, arranging napkins with intense concentration. Alicia watched from the doorway, her expression unreadable. You okay? Victor asked quietly when Amber was distracted. I don't know, Alicia admitted. Everything's happened so fast. 2 days ago, you were a stranger. Now you're... She stopped, shaking her head. I don't even know what you are. I'm someone who cares about you. Both of you. That's what scares me. Alicia wrapped her arms around herself. Men like you don't end up with women like me. That's not how the world works. Maybe the world been working wrong. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Look around you. This is your life. Penthouses and private security and federal prosecutors on speed dial. My life is double shifts and broken elevators and coloring books from the dollar store. We're from different planets. So what? We managed to have dinner on both planets. Seemed to work fine. Dinner isn't a life, Alicia said. What happens when the crisis is over and reality sets in? When you remember you have a company to run, and I remember I have rent to pay. When you get bored of playing house with a poor single mom, the accusation stung. I'm not him. I'm not your ex. I'm not every rich man who's used money to manipulate you. I'm just someone who was alone at a restaurant and got approached by a wise 6-year-old who changed my life. Mama, is something wrong? Amber appeared between them. No, baby, nothing's wrong. Alicia forced a smile. Let's eat. Dinner was strained. The ease they found replaced by awkwardness. Victor tried to make conversation, but every topic felt loaded. After dinner, Amber asked to watch the city lights from the balcony. Victor hesitated, 37 floors up, but Alicia nodded permission. Alone in the kitchen, they loaded the dishwasher in silence. Finally, Victor couldn't take it. Talk to me. Tell me what you're really thinking. Alicia set down a plate carefully. I'm thinking that in 48 hours, my daughter became a witness in a federal case. We got chased out of our apartment, and a man I barely know has inserted himself so completely into our lives that I can't imagine them without him anymore. And that terrifies me. Why? Because you have the power to destroy us. Victor, not maliciously, maybe not intentionally, but you're used to getting what you want. You see a problem, you fix it. What happens when you decide we're not what you want anymore? When the novelty wears off? That's not going to happen. You can't know that. Neither can I. Alicia turned to face him. I have to protect Amber. That's my job. And I can't protect her from caring about someone who might disappear as quickly as he entered. So what are you saying? That we should end this before it begins. I'm saying I need time. Space to think. You've been investigating and strategizing, but I've just been swept along. Alicia's voice cracked. I need to know that when I make decisions about you, about us, they're coming from a clear head. Victor wanted to argue, to present a logical case, but he'd spent 5 years building walls to protect himself from vulnerability, and he recognized the same instinct in Alicia now. Okay, he said quietly. How much time? I don't know. A week? 2. Alicia looked miserable. I'm not saying no. I'm saying not yet. It wasn't okay. Every instinct screamed to fight for this. But Alicia wasn't a business problem to be solved. She was a woman who'd been hurt, who deserved to make her own choices. Yes, he lied. It's okay. They called Amber in. Victor arranged for his driver to take them back to the hotel. At the door, Amber hugged him tightly. You're not sad again, are you? A little bit, Victor admitted. It's okay to be sad sometimes, Amber said. Mama says feelings are like weather. They come and go, and you just have to wait for the sun. After they left, Victor stood in his empty penthouse and felt the walls closing in. He'd solved a mystery, stopped a conspiracy, protected the people he cared about. He'd done everything right. So why did it feel like he'd lost? His phone buzzed. Caroline checking in. Victor sent a brief reply and then did something he never did. He turned off his phone completely. For the first time in 5 years, Victor Lorenzen had no problems to solve, no enemies to fight. He just had silence and space and the echo of a 6-year-old's words. You're waiting for someone who wasn't meant for you. Maybe Alicia was right. Maybe they were from different worlds. And try to bridge that gap would only hurt them. Maybe the smart thing was to let them walk away before anyone got too attached. Except it was already too late. Victor was attached. Completely. Terrifyingly attached to a woman who thought he'd eventually leave and a child who'd seen through every defense he'd built. He poured himself a drink and stood at the window. Somewhere in the city, Alicia and Amber were in a hotel room, probably relieved to have space from the chaos he brought. The worst part was that he couldn't blame her for needing distance. He was used to power, to control, to making things happen through force of will. But love didn't work that way. It required patience and trust and vulnerability. Victor's reflection stared back at him from the dark window. Somewhere between a blind date that never happened and a child's innocent words, he'd stopped being the cold, calculated billionaire who trusted no one. He'd become someone who was willing to wait, even if waiting felt like drowning, even if the woman he was waiting for might never come back. 5 days passed. Victor threw himself into work, addressing the chaos Marcus's arrest had created. The board was in turmoil, investors nervous, media asking questions. Victor handled it all mechanically, but his mind was elsewhere. He hadn't heard from Alicia. He'd sent one text, just checking in, hope you're both well, and received a polite response. We're fine. Thank you. On the 6th day, Caroline knocked with an expression Victor had learned to dread. There's something you need to see. She pulled up a news article. The headline made Victor's blood run cold. Federal witness in Brennan case under investigation for fraud. Victor snatched the tablet, scanning. According to anonymous sources, Alicia Reeves had been accepting bribes from Marcus Brennan. The article suggested she'd been complicit, using her daughter as a pawn. This is garbage, Victor said. Complete fabrication. I know, but it's been picked up by 3 major outlets. Caroline's expression was grim. Someone is trying to discredit her. Victor was already dialing David Chen. I saw it, Chen said, and I'm handling it. These articles are being planted. We're tracking the source, but in the meantime, Miss Reeves is being harassed by media. Where is she now? We moved her and Amber to a safe house. But, Victor, this is going to get worse. Whoever is behind this wants to destroy her credibility. After ending the call, Victor paced his office. Someone was attacking Alicia, and he had a good guess who. Caroline, I need everything on Veronica Ashford. What's her status? Released on bail. She's claiming innocence, saying she was manipulated. Caroline pulled up files. She's hired Thomas Kessler as her attorney. Victor cursed. Kessler was known for winning impossible cases and destroying witnesses. She's going after Alicia, Victor said, trying to discredit her before trial. It's working. The narrative is shifting. Caroline hesitated. Victor, fighting this might make things worse. Sometimes the best thing is to let people handle their own battles. No, not this time. Not her. He called Alicia. She didn't answer. He tried again. On the 4th attempt, she finally picked up. Victor, I can't talk. I saw the articles. I know what they're doing. Then you know you need to stay away from me. Her voice was tight. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Your world, your problems, they're destroying my life. Let me help. You've helped enough. Alicia's voice broke. Amber can't go to school because there are reporters outside. I can't go to work because they're calling me a criminal. This is all because I met you. The accusation hit like a physical blow. Alicia, this isn't my fault. It's Veronica. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. This is my reality now. My daughter is scared. I'm terrified, and I can't do this. I can't be with someone whose life comes with this much danger. You're not alone. Yes, I am. You're used to battles like this. But I'm not. I'm just a nurse trying to raise my daughter, and now I'm caught in some billionaire war. She took a shaky breath. I need you to stay away. For our safety. Please. She hung up before he could respond. Victor stood frozen, phone still pressed his ear, listening to dead air. Everything in him screamed to fight, to ignore her request and solve this. But her words echoed. This is exactly what I was afraid of. She'd been right. His world had destroyed hers. Maybe the kindest thing was to walk away. The thought made him physically ill. Sir, Caroline's voice pulled him back. What do you want to do? Victor looked at the articles, at the lies being spread about a woman whose only crime was being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or the right place at the right time. Find me everything on Thomas Kessler. Every case, every tactic, every weakness. Victor's voice was cold steel. And get me a meeting with Veronica Ashford. She won't meet with you. She will when she realizes I'm about to destroy what's left of her life. Victor pulled up contacts. I've been playing defense. Time to go on offense. Over the next 48 hours, Victor became the man his enemies feared. He used every connection, called in every favor. He discovered that Veronica's assets weren't as protected as she thought, that her supposed innocence had cracks, that Kessler's perfect record included questionable tactics. He also discovered the articles about Alicia were being funded through a shell company that traced back to Veronica herself. Armed with this, Victor arranged a meeting. Veronica arrived with Kessler, her expression confident. Mr. Lorenzen, she said, coolly, to what do I owe this? You're going to withdraw the smear campaign against Alicia Reeves, Victor said without preamble. You're going to issue a public statement admitting you fabricated the accusations. Within 24 hours. Veronica laughed. And why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'll make sure every news outlet knows you're funding the attacks. I'll expose every shell company, every payment, every lie. Your credibility will be destroyed. Kessler leaned forward. You have no proof. Victor slid a folder across. Financial records, email correspondence, phone records. Everything I need to prove you orchestrated this. He met Veronica's eyes. You tried to destroy an innocent woman. That's not going to look good to a jury. Veronica's confidence faltered. She grabbed the folder, flipping through with increasing panic. Where did you get this? I have resources you can't imagine, and I'm willing to use all of them to protect Alicia. Victor's voice was quiet, but carried absolute certainty. Withdraw the attacks, or I destroy you. Choose now. Kessler whispered urgently to Veronica. They were weighing risks, assessing damages, realizing they'd underestimated their opponent. Fine, Veronica finally said. I'll issue a statement, but only because the allegations were mistaken. I don't care how you spin it. Just make it stop. Victor stood. You have until tomorrow at noon. After that, everything goes public. He walked out before they could respond, feeling triumphant and hollow. He'd won, protected Alicia's reputation. But none of it mattered if she still wouldn't talk to him. The next day, Veronica issued a public apology, admitting the allegations were unfounded. The media quickly pivoted, the narrative shifting back to sympathy. Victor called David Chun. I saw the statement. Chun said, whatever you did, it worked. Miss Reeves can come out of hiding now. Is she okay? Shaken but relieved. She's already asking about returning to her apartment. A pause. She also asked me to thank you. Said she knew you were behind this. Something in Victor's chest loosened. Can you give her a message? What message? Tell her I'm sorry. For everything. And that I'm here if she needs me. But I understand if she doesn't. Victor hung up and returned to work. But every day felt like waiting, like being back at Sorella's watching the door. 3 days passed, then 4, then a week. Victor tried to move on, but every night, he stood at his window and wondered if somewhere a 6-year-old girl was telling her mother that the sad man deserved another chance. On the 8th day, Caroline knocked. There's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says you'll want to see her. Victor's heart lurched. Send her in. But when the door opened, it wasn't Alicia. It was Amber. The little girl walked into his office alone, backpack on her shoulders, looking impossibly small. Hi, Mr. Victor, she said quietly. I came to tell you something important. Victor dropped to one knee. Does your mother know you're here? She thinks I'm at school, but I took the bus instead. I remembered your address. Amber's expression was serious. You're sad again. I'm fine, sweetheart. No, you're not. And Mama's not fine either. She cries at night when she thinks I'm sleeping. Amber took his hand. She's scared of you, but not because you're mean, because you make her feel things she doesn't want to feel. The simple observation cut deep. Sometimes people need space. She's had time. Now she's just scared. Amber squeezed his hand. But I'm not scared of you. I know you're good. I knew at the restaurant when everyone else saw a sad rich man, but I saw someone who needed us as much as we needed him. Victor felt his control starting to crack. Your mother's probably worried. We should call her. Not yet. First you have to promise me something. Amber's brown eyes were impossibly wise. Promise you won't give up on us. Even if Mama says she wants space. Promise you'll wait until she's ready. Amber. Promise, Victor. Like you promised to keep us safe. Promise you'll keep waiting. He thought about all the waiting he'd done. 5 years after Catherine's betrayal. 45 minutes at Sorella's. 8 days hoping Alicia would reach out. I promise, he said. I'll wait as long as it takes. Amber smiled, bright and genuine. Good, because Mama's waiting downstairs. She's really scared, but she came anyway. That means something, right? Victor's heart stopped. She's here. I told her I had something to show her at your work. She thinks it's a drawing. Amber giggled. I'm sneaky like that. Victor pulled out his phone, calling Caroline. Is there a woman in the lobby? Alicia Reeves. Yes, sir. She arrived about 10 minutes ago with Amber. I saw Amber slip away. Send Miss Reeves up. Now. He ended the call and looked at Amber. You're quite the matchmaker. I just help people see what they're too scared to see themselves. Amber said, Can I wait in the room with the fish tank? Victor smiled despite his nervousness. The conference room. Yes. After Caroline escorted Amber away, Victor stood alone, heart pounding. The elevator dinged. Footsteps approached. Then Alicia was standing in his doorway, looking terrified and determined. Your daughter is a menace, she said. She's brilliant, Victor corrected. That too. Alicia stepped inside. I didn't come here to reconcile. I came because Amber tricked me and we need to talk. Okay, we'll talk. I mean really talk. About what we're doing, whether it can work. She crossed her arms. Because I can't keep doing this. The fear and uncertainty and feeling like I'm about to lose everything. I know, Victor said quietly. I feel the same way. That seemed to surprise her. You do? Alicia, I built a life where I control everything. And then you and Amber walked in, and suddenly nothing's under control. He took a step closer. It terrifies me, this feeling. But it's also the first time in 5 years I've felt alive instead of just existing. Alicia's eyes glistened. What if it's not enough? What if we try and it doesn't work and Amber gets hurt? What if we don't try and spend the rest of our lives wondering? Victor closed the distance. I can't promise everything will be perfect. My world is complicated. But I can promise I'll face it with you. And I can promise that Amber will always be safe, always be loved, always be the most important thing. Even over business, over money and power, especially over those things. Victor reached out. I was waiting for the wrong person, Alicia, for 5 years. And then Amber told me I was waiting for someone who wasn't meant for me. She was right. You're not meant for my world. You're meant to show me there's a better world outside the walls I built. Alicia took his hand, trembling slightly. I'm still scared. So am I. But you're sure? About us? I've never been more sure of anything. Victor pulled her closer. Except maybe that your daughter is going to run the world someday. Alicia laughed, watery but genuine. She really is. So what do you say? Are you willing to try? Instead of answering, Alicia closed the distance and kissed him. It was tentative at first, but it deepened into something that felt like promise and possibility. When they broke apart, Amber was standing in the doorway, grinning. I knew you'd figure it out, she announced. You just needed someone to show you where to look. Victor looked down at the two people who'd changed his life in less than 2 weeks, who'd taken his carefully controlled existence and turned it into something messy and complicated and absolutely perfect. He'd been waiting for the wrong person, until the right two people found him instead. 6 months later, the wedding was small, intimate, nothing like the elaborate affair Victor's position might have demanded. Just close friends, the few family members who mattered, and Amber as the flower girl/junior wedding planner. She took her role seriously, directing guests, correcting the florist, generally running the show with 7-year-old authority. "This is the best day ever," she announced. "My mama's marrying Victor, which makes us super official, and then we're getting a dog." Victor had indeed promised a dog. He'd lost that negotiation spectacularly. When it was time for vows, Victor looked at Alicia, beautiful in a simple dress, and felt his carefully prepared words dissolve. "I had a whole speech plan," he said, "about business partnerships and shared goals. Very romantic." The crowd laughed. But standing here, I realize I only need to say one thing. Thank you for seeing me when I've forgotten how to be seen. Thank you for letting your daughter approach a stranger. Thank you for being brave enough to try. I promise to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it." Alicia's vows were simpler. "I promise to love you on easy days and hard days, to call you out when you're impossible and celebrate you when you're amazing, to build a life that honors both our strengths, and to always remember that our family started with a blind date that never happened and a child who said exactly what you needed to hear." When they kissed, Amber cheered louder than anyone. At the reception, Amber cornered him during dinner. "Dad?" she said. She'd settled on calling him Dad at home. "Can I tell you something important?" "Always, sweetheart. I knew you were going to be my dad. That night at the restaurant, I looked at you and just knew." Her expression was serious. "Sometimes you just know things about people, and you fit into ours perfectly." Victor knelt down, not caring about wrinkling his suit. "You know what? I knew too. The moment you told me I was waiting for the wrong person, something clicked, and we did." "You did." Victor hugged her tight. "You and your mama saved me. Don't ever forget that." "I won't." Amber pulled back, grinning. "But you saved us too. So we're even." She skipped off to dance, leaving Victor alone. He watched his daughter, because she was his daughter now, spin in circles with absolute joy. Alicia peered beside him, slipping her hand into his. "What you thinking about?" "About blind dates that never happen. About 6-year-olds who change everything. About how the best things come from plans falling apart." He pulled her close. "About how I was stood up and somehow ended up with everything I never knew I wanted." "You're getting sappy," Alicia teased. "I prefer emotionally available." "Same thing." They danced while Amber took over the DJ booth, unauthorized but charming. As the night wore on and guests began to leave, Amber crashed on a couch, still in her flower girl dress. Victor carried her to the car while Alicia said goodbyes. "Did I do good?" Amber mumbled sleepily. "You did perfect, sweetheart." "Good. Because you and Mama needed the best wedding ever. Since you're the best family ever." Victor kissed the top of her head, this child who'd seen past every defense, who'd recognized truth he'd been blind to. In the car ride home, Amber slept while Alicia leaned against Victor and they watched city lights blur past. "No regrets?" Victor asked. "Not a single one." Alicia laced her fingers through his. "You!" "My only regret is not being stood up sooner." Alicia laughed, the sound mixing with the rhythm of the city, the breathing of their sleeping daughter, the promise of ordinary, extraordinary days ahead. They arrived home, their home, all of theirs equally now, and carried Amber inside. Victor tucked her into bed while Alicia changed. When he emerged, his wife was at their bedroom window, looking out at the view that had once represented isolation and now represented shared life. "Come here," she said softly. Victor wrapped his arms around her, and they stood together looking out the city where everything had changed, where a blind date hadn't happened, and a little girl had spoken, and a man had finally stopped waiting for the wrong things. "I love you," Victor said. "I love you too." Alicia turned in his arms. "Thank you for being stood up, for being in the right place at the right time, for letting Amber change your life. Thank you for being brave enough to let me into yours. They stood in the dark, two people who'd found each other through accident and intention, through conspiracy and innocence, through a child's receptive eyes and a man's willingness to finally feel again. Outside, the city continued its endless dance. Inside, their daughter slept peacefully, and in their bedroom, Victor and Alicia held each other and knew they'd found what everyone searches for. Not perfection, not ease, but partnership, love, family, the kind that starts with a blind date that never happens, the kind that grows from a 6-year-old's innocent words, the kind that proves that sometimes the wrong plans lead to exactly the right places. Victor had been waiting for the wrong person for 5 years. He'd found the right ones in a single night, and he'd spend the rest of his life grateful that fate, coincidence, or a perceptive child had intervened. Sometimes you had to be stood up to stand up for what really mattered. Sometimes you had to wait for the wrong person to find the right ones. Sometimes you just had to listen when a 6-year-old tells you the truth. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that truth changes everything. The end. Two Hearts, thank you so much for watching this story. If you enjoyed Victor and Alicia's journey from a failed blind date to finding unexpected love, please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming romance stories. Backhand index pointing down, let us know in the comments. What was your favorite moment in the story? Do you believe in destiny or coincidence when it comes to love? Have you ever had a wrong moment turn into the right one? Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss our next emotional story. Mobile phones, share this video with someone who believes in second chances and unexpected love stories. Sparkles, remember, sometimes the best things in life come from plans that fall apart. Sometimes you're waiting for the wrong person until the right ones find you instead. See you in the next story.